This morning, I want to welcome to our worship service Tony Stevenson. Tony is an Anishinaabe First Nation of the Treaty 4 area in Saskatchewan. He attended the Qu'Appelle Indian Residential School in Lebret, Saskatchewan for about 10 years. He has been involved in the process of reconciliation by working representing his peers and his elders in the independent assessment process for their compensation hearings. And he has been recognized for his work in this field by being awarded the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal. One of the things that Tony is now doing is traveling to schools and businesses and organizations to talk about his experiences in residential schools and to create conversation. Tony, I think, is a really lively and courageous spokesperson for the thousands of Indigenous Canadians and their ancestors, those who were involved in the residential schools. And he was also a hockey player. And I don't know if any of you have seen the film Indian Horse, which is on Netflix, but it really is a close approximation of Tony's life. He is a gifted athlete whose hockey prowess offered him hope for a bright future. He is now an inspirational speaker, and he generously offers his time trying to raise the questions and help us explore the answers to questions I think that we all want to ask. And so, Tony, we welcome you this morning. Thank you very much for joining us at Kamloops United Church.
Really an honor to speak to all of you. To present, this is Marcy, my wife, back here. She also went to residential school, the same one I went to in Lebret, Saskatchewan. The acronym is QIRS, Qu'Appelle Indian Residential School. I attended for 10 years. Marcy was there since grade 3 to grade 7, then to grade 10, sporadically. And what I've been doing since 1994, I worked and started off with the residential school process when the law firms had come into play with starting off the civil suits. And Canada then offered a compensation package called the IAP. That's when I started working for the law firms. Unfortunately, I didn't really care too much about how the law firms were treating my peers and my elders. So I went on my own. I didn't complete the law education, the legal education, but I was, however, more than capable of acting as an agent and representative for the applicants, for the survivors. And this gave me a lot of, I want to say, a lot more freedom to do whatever I wanted to in terms of being able to assist them, because licensed lawyers have to stay between two lines. They can't really do things outside the box, whereas I could. And so I did that. I'll give you an idea. When I sat with an individual from one of my peers or one of the elders, I would sit with them for at least a minimum of 8, 9, 10 hours for the first interview, and then it would continue on. And it gave me a lot of satisfaction, because they were able to trust me, because my own adjudication hearing, which I self-represented myself in, I was in that adjudication hearing room for 11 hours. 6 of those hours were spent crying because I had to open up of what happened to me. I was on the higher end of, of the abuse, which I would say out of 5 levels, it would be a level 4. However, in the IAP compensation process, it went off in points. So I was about 143 out of 160. So that gives you an idea of basically what I lost out and was compensated for. I was a hockey player, and unfortunately, a lot of things happened to me where the memories, the abuse, uh, basically, uh, I would say, had a very negative impact on what I had done in my life. And again, that's why I was able to relate more better to the clients, and also, I hate to say clients, I'll just say my elders and my peers. Now, the intergeneration trauma is what I understand and I have gone through, because my mom, my grandparents all went to residential schools, and that is something, again, I try to touch more on and try to help those who don't understand it, to give them an education of what and how it affects us. I'm really glad. I have to add this. I'm really, really glad. Actually, it's more than glad. I want to say elated. A lot of the peers and elders who are no longer with us, they wanted you, who never understood or never believed these stories, or who want to hear the truth. They want you to know, as much as I do, that I really appreciate it. I mean, it's 2021, and this process started back in 2006. Actually, the IAP did, but the last school closed in 1998. Wikipedia has it in 96, a place called Gordon's, which is not true. It's actually Lebret that closed in 1998 because my mom worked there. And what they all wanted, the Canada, the public, especially the non-First Nations, to know was that they all wanted you to hear the story. They all wanted you to know the truth. So, because there's a lot of hate and misconceptions of the schools themselves, of what they were, and how they benefited us, which is not very true. And when I took it upon myself after I left the law firms to go on my own, and I started with Marcy. We started going to elementary schools, universities, classrooms, anywhere that would have us, basically on our own dime. And we been to Winnipeg. We've been to another school in Manitoba. I've been to the University of Regina, two classes there, and we've been to I would say there are three other schools in Saskatchewan here. And every place we went to, we used a film to depict the story of, sorry, the narratives of a female and male elder from the 40s and 50s. And then from there, I would tell my story from the 1980s and share how uh, the the process or the intergenerational traumas were passed down from them to us through these schools. Because in the 80s, the schools were run and operated by our own people, and I want to say that they carried the same methodology, I guess, from what they had learned from the schools when they first started. Now, that was something that, again, I want to touch more on was, I mean, the reserve that I grew up on as a kid from 73 to 75 was in Cody First Nation by Kamsack in Saskatchewan. They had a suicide pandemic. They were actually the number one, they led the suicide rate in Canada for those 2 years. And sorry, 3 years. And what had happened was, as a kid, I didn't understand what was going on. I had no idea why were my relatives committing suicide? Why were they doing this? Like, and it just, it was a sad time. And it's now 2021, and you still continue to hear about how the First Nations all throughout Canada still continue to go through that process, or sorry, have that epidemic, whatever you want to call it. Sorry, epidemic. And for myself, when like after all this work that I've done, after from the interviews, the hearings, the appeals, sitting with many elders from Ontario to BC, I understand how this suicide, what takes place. Sorry, what causes the suicide pandemic? What causes a person to think like that? because I've been there. I've been through the, I guess, that form of healing, that form of I guess the mindset. And I want to say that a lot of our people, our leaders of today, our chiefs, counselors, headmen, whatever you want to call them, some don't understand that reason why the people do that. I mean, for me, when I go speak to my own people on the reserves, I always talk about, who we are, what, and the importance of us, and what we have to do. I guess to set some kind of a, not example, but I want to say a message, because a lot of our people think and feel that, we, the leaders, that they always ask for finances from the people, from the government. And for me, it's not about the finances. It's basically what it is. It's the ability to, start and create the process of healing on the reserve, on your own grassroots level. You can't get, I want to say, a savior to come in and save everybody. No, it's got to be from the grassroots. It's got to be from that community. And that's the message I tell my people whenever I've been invited to the reserves, and I'm able to relate to them in that sense. I mean, it's because on the reserves, I give an example. I mean, as a male, I mean, I could talk about sexual abuse because in the 80s, in order to be a man or accepted, or I guess seen as a man, you couldn't talk about those things. And that's what made it more worse, because it repressed everything. And along the way, you displaced that aggression. I ended up in a lot of trouble when I was 20, 21. Again, I threw away, I want to say, a lot of careers, chances of doing things. Like financially, I've lost a lot of jobs, potentially because because I had the potential, definitely the intellect, and it's just because of the repressed memories that I didn't know how to deal with them. And that's, again, that's something a message that needs to be passed on to our people. Now, on that side of the spectrum, we go to the non-First Nation side. When I speak in front of the non-First Nation people, and especially the grade 5, 6, 7, and 8s, I tell them, this is who we are. This is what happened to us. And I tell them the truth. I mean, they're holding back. I mean, the schools, the one school from grade 5 to 8, the principal basically told me, because I asked him, is there anything you don't want me to say? He said, you want to me? Say it like it is. Just tell them the truth. Tell them everything. Which is really good, because the response to that I had from the elementary kids from grade 5 and 6 and grade 7 and 8, they were at the edge of their seats just listening up to me, just like little sponges. It was a beautiful sight. It was a beautiful feeling to have them sit there and they knew, I guess as the principal did say, if it was somebody else who didn't experience this, they would have seen right through us, through the teacher. And coming from you, yeah, that was pretty powerful. And I do have reviews on my website. It's oldschoolcrew.com. MJ's Old School Crew. I think it's .ca or .com. I think it's .ca. Anyways, I can afford that information, but this is what we're doing. Actually, I'm here in Saskatoon right now. I'm up here in front of 6 communities in and around Saskatoon this week, and next week another 7. And these are schools, these are community colleges, and my goal is to go right across Canada to tell the story of what happened, I guess, in the best way that I can. Because I mean, the advantage I have is I worked in the legal system. I've done the adjudication hearings. I've represented everyone and anyone from all the stories. I have no problem at all. And as they instructed me was to share the stories with you. And I am like Sheldon Kennedy. I worked with him in 1997 when he went across Canada telling his story of abuse. I mean, there was a lot of people that flocked to him. There's a lot of people that wanted to hear his stories. And I'm hoping I get the same response. I'm hoping I get the same support, because it's important that everybody hears the truth, because we want to get rid of those misconceptions. I mean, there's a lot of people from my, I guess, say part of First Nations, they still continue to hate. Well, it is hate, and they still feel that the churches, in some way, they feel a resentment towards them. And again, when I speak to my people, I just say, well, it wasn't the people of today, and it's wrong for you to be upset at people who don't represent what the actions of the people from before. And then again, there's always the good and bad. Again, that's the misconceptions, and it's easier for them to take that advice, or to believe to a person who's been there and who sees it from both sides. So I'm asking for your support, and heck, I would love to come out there and visit every community that I can. Again, I'm going to go across Canada regardless with Marcy, and I would certainly love to visit your community